The deep-sea drone moved slowly across the ocean floor. It was supposed to collect rock samples, but something strange appeared on its scanner, something metallic, smooth, and perfectly round. The ocean bed was silent, cold, and dark. Should be here. Not at this depth, not at this temperature. Inside the control room on the surface ship Seeker 9, scientist Dr. Amina Shah watched the screen with narrowed eyes. "What is that?" she asked aloud, but no one had an answer. The drone's camera zoomed in. A circular metal hatch, covered in strange patterns, was buried under layers of rock. The design looked old ancient, but still too perfect to be natural. Amina leaned closer. Her fingers trembled slightly. She had seen these patterns before, in an old forbidden file stored deep inside an abandoned database back at her university. A file marked Classified Level Omega. Suddenly, the drone's signal spiked. On the screen, a light blinked from the buried object, just once. Then again, "What the? Is that thing alive?" whispered one of the technicians. Without warning, the screen went black. All communication with the drone was lost. Down at the ocean floor, the buried object gave off one final silent wave of energy, spreading across the seabed like a ripple. No one on the ship noticed. Not yet, but far away, beyond Earth's solar system, someone else noticed. Inside the cold, glass-like chamber of a listening station orbiting a gas giant, an alien technician of the Valthakar Dominion. "Blinked in surprise, Commander," it hissed. "Earth has just activated something." The commander turned his head. His skin was scaled, his eyes sharp. "Show me." On the screen, the signal repeated in coded bursts. Not in Earth language. Not in any known human script. It was ancient code, galactic code. A dead language from a forgotten time. "Impossible," the commander whispered. They were not supposed to have access to this. Earth was marked as a primitive species. The technician nodded slowly. "But this is pre-exile technology. Send the report to the High Council." The commander growled. Immediately. Back on Earth, Amina couldn't sleep. Her mind was racing. The symbols on that hatch weren't just decoration. They were warnings. They spoke of something hidden, something powerful and dangerous. She remembered her old professor's last words before his sudden disappearance. "If you ever see the words Project Leviathan, walk away." But she hadn't walked away. 2 days later, a military helicopter landed outside her research station. 2 soldiers stepped out, fully armed. A man in a black coat followed behind them. He held a small tablet. Without speaking, he turned it toward her. On the screen were the same symbols, the exact same patterns from the ocean floor. "You're coming with us," he said. Now, she didn't argue. They flew her to Antarctica, to a facility so secret it wasn't on any map. Inside, men and women in lab coats and uniforms moved in silence. Everyone looked serious. No one smiled. At the center of the base was a giant underground vault. "We found this 70 years ago," the black-coated man explained, "but it stayed dormant. So now." The vault opened slowly, with a heavy hiss. Amina gasped. Inside was a massive hangar, and in the middle of it was a ship. But not like anything she had ever seen. It wasn't made of normal metal. It shimmered like liquid steel but held a solid shape. It had no wings, no cockpit. A long, smooth body, covered in glowing lines, like veins. "This is not human," she whispered. The man beside her shook his head. "That's where you're wrong. DNA scans say it was built by humans, very old humans, ones we didn't even know existed." Amina stepped closer. The ship made a soft sound, almost like breathing. Then without warning, a beam of light scanned her face. "Genetic match confirmed." A voice echoed from the walls. "Commander class human detected. Welcome, Amina Shah." She stumbled back. "What? What did it say?" The man looked stunned. He's never spoken before. Never even moved. The voice continued. "System Guardian status. Reactivation. Initiated awaiting further vessel connection. Amina looked around, heart pounding. "There are more of these," the ship responded. 7 vessels remain. Global positions secure. Awakening sequence will begin upon Prime Directive confirmation. The black-coated man looked pale now. What Prime Directive? The ship paused, and spoke clearly. Phase 1, protect Earth. Phase 2, reclaim the stars. The room went silent, far across the galaxy. The Valthakar High Council screamed in anger. "They've awakened the Leviathan protocols." One elder shouted. Another, older than the rest, stood slowly. "This cannot be. Earth is not ready." "They were never supposed to be ready," the High Commander barked. "That's why they buried themselves." An ancient legend was whispered. In the chambers of the galactic rulers, it's a story of a species that once ruled the stars. They were powerful, clever, dangerous. They built weapons that could destroy entire planets, but then they vanished as if they had erased themselves from time. That species was humanity, and now they were returning. The Valthakar Dominion had a choice: attack Earth now and destroy the buried ships before more woke up, or wait and risk losing everything. They chose war. Meanwhile, Amina stood before the awakened ship, now called Judgment. Her mind raced with questions. "How long have you been asleep?" she asked. The ship answered, 49,872 Earth years. She blinked. Why now? Why wake now? Enemy presence detected in nearby sectors. Ancient threat indicators exceeded. Dormant systems reactivated by deep-sea energy scan. She shook her head. "We didn't mean to." "Wake you, not accident," the ship replied. "You are blood of command. The system obeys its makers." Amina turned to the black-coated man. "We need to find the other ships now." He nodded. "We already started tracking similar energy signatures, one in the Sahara Desert, another beneath the Mariana Trench. But it will take time." Time, Amina muttered, "is the one thing we don't have." It's the next day, strange energy. Readings appeared in the night sky. Satellites picked up movements in space. Ships large, unknown, were entering Earth's orbit. The United Nations went into emergency session. No one could deny it now. Earth was being watched, and it was about to be attacked. In secret, military jets moved Amina to the Sahara. Deep beneath the sand, another ship began to pulse. The same symbols, the same voice, another war machine, waiting to wake. But in orbit, the Valthakar fleet arrived. 8 battleships. Enough firepower to level continents. Their leader sent a broadcast to Earth. "Humans, you've activated forbidden technology. Shut it down, or face extinction." The message was cold, final. On the ground, Amina stood before Judgment. She touched the side of the ship. It opened slowly, letting her inside. The interior was like stepping into a storm of stars walls, glowing with light and data. She sat in the command chair. "Prepare for engagement," she said softly. The ship responded. Engines online, weapons charged. Shield levels rising. On Earth, leaders argued in panic. But in space, the first shot was already fired. The Valthakar fleet launched a plasma barrage toward Earth. Judgment, launched from Antarctica like a comet. It moved faster than any ship ever built by mankind. In seconds, it reached orbit. Before the plasma hit Earth, Judgment intercepted. A flash of light. The enemy shots were gone. Then, with surgical precision, Judgment fired back. A blue beam lanced through the lead Valthakar ship. It exploded in silence. In the next 6 seconds, the other 7 ships were destroyed. On the ground, the people of Earth looked to the sky and saw fire rain down. They thought the end had come. But it was only the beginning. Amina's voice came. "Through the global communication network, this is not a drill. This is not a game. Earth has enemies far beyond what we know. But we are not helpless. We were never helpless." And then, Judgment sent its own message to the galaxy. Protocol Prime reinstated. Earth has returned. Prepare for Phase 2. Far across the stars, every empire watched with fear. The sleeping giants were waking. And they were human. The Sahara sun burned hot over the endless sand, but deep underground, in darkness untouched by time, something ancient had begun to stir. Dr. Amina Shah stood beside a massive drilling machine. Wind howled around her, sand flying in all directions. Soldiers stood nearby, guarding her like she was a national treasure. In a way, she was. She had bonded with the ship they now called Judgment, and that made her the key to everything. "Any update?" she asked into her one of the excavation. Workers responded, "We're close. The scanner says we're less than 20 meters away from another metal structure." Amina nodded. "Dig carefully. This is like the first ship. It may be alive." Above them, satellite feeds were being monitored by every major government. After the first alien fleet was destroyed, the world had changed overnight. Earth's leaders knew the truth now. The stars weren't empty. They were full of enemies, and humanity had just become important again. Inside a command bunker in Geneva, military advisors from 15 nations argued over next steps. The problem was simple. They had no control over the Leviathan ships. Amina seemed to trigger them, and no one knew why. "She's not trained," one general yelled. "She's a civilian." "She's the only one they listen to," someone else replied. "That ship saved Earth." Meanwhile, above Earth's orbit, remains of the Valthakar fleet floated in silence. Fire and debris spun slowly in space. The Valthakar had underestimated Earth. That mistake had cost them dearly. But now, they wanted revenge, inside a war chamber on the Valthakar homeworld. The Supreme Overlord slammed his clawed fist on the table. "We warned them," he growled. "They refused. Now we end them." Another officer stepped forward. "They still have more ships buried. If they wake them all, we will strike before that happens," the Overlord snarled.
Ready?"
The second wave, back on Earth, the desert trembled. Amina stood at the edge of a deep pit as the last layer of sand was blown away. Silver edge shone in the sunlight. Smooth, perfect, alien but still, somehow, human. The workers stepped back as the hatch opened by itself. No one touched it. Dust lifted into the air, glowing blue for a second. Amina stepped forward slowly, her hand raised. As she came closer, a low hum filled the air. The ship responded to her presence. Lights flickered along its sides. The sand melted around its base. The machine was waking. The voice came again, different. From Judgment, but still familiar. "Command DNA confirmed. Vessel vigilant, initiating startup. Requesting system sync with Prime Guardian." Amina smiled slightly. "It recognizes Judgment." She tapped her wrist device. "Judgment. This is Amina. Second ship is responding." Judgment answered through her earpiece. Signal confirmed. "Vessel vigilant is operating at 42%, awaiting fleet reactivation sequence." As the ship rose from the sand, the ground shook. Wind screamed across the dunes. Everyone ducked for cover. The massive ship lifted slowly into the air, sand sliding. Off like water. From above, satellites locked onto the energy surge. The second Leviathan had awakened. On the Valthakar homeworld, sensors picked up the spike. They've activated another one. An officer shouted. The Overlord hissed in rage. "Then we no longer wait. Launch the second wave. No survivors. Burn Earth to ash." In deep space, 30 ships launched from hyperspace tunnels, each larger than the ones before. Fleet. Earth's defense forces scrambled. The world had just begun preparing for war, but they weren't ready yet. Most of the Leviathans were still asleep. Amina flew to an underground bunker in Switzerland where secret data had been hidden for decades. The files were labeled Project Leviathan. She unlocked them with a retinal scan. The files had waited for someone like her. Inside were hundreds of documents, maps, coordinates, even ship logs. But none made sense until she saw one folder labeled The Forgotten Protocols. She opened it slowly. The video began to play. A man, pale, serious, dressed in dark armor, looked into the camera. His voice was calm. "If you're watching this, the Leviathans have awakened. That means the galaxy is turned against us again. We left this message for you, descendant, because you were the last chance. Amina leaned forward, stunned. You were never supposed to know the truth, the man continued. Our enemies feared us, so we hid. We erased our history, our ships, our knowledge, but not forever. You must find the others. Wake them all, then begin phase 2. The video ended. Amina sat in silence. Her heart beat faster. She was part of something far older, far bigger than she had imagined. The Leviathans weren't alien weapons. They were human. Human from a time long before modern civilization. And she was meant to bring them back. Meanwhile, Vigilant and Judgment floated side by side above Earth. They communicated silently, trading power and data. Preparing, inside the United Nations war room, panic grew. The alien second wave had been spotted. They would reach Earth in 3 days. Where are the rest of the ships? One general demanded. We need them now, Amina replied over the live feed. I have coordinates for 5 more. One is under the ice in Greenland, another inside a mountain in South America. But it will take time. We don't have time, the general shouted. Aina raised her voice. Then help me. Send teams. Send diggers. These ships respond to DNA like mine. We need to find others like me. This isn't just war. It's our past calling us. The room went quiet. One older scientist stood up. She's right. These ships aren't just weapons. They're part of something much older. If we don't understand it, we'll lose even with their power, the world finally agreed. Multiple teams were sent around the globe, searching ancient ruins, digging under mountains, using new scanners to detect Leviathan energy signals. In just 2 days, another ship was found. This one was in the Pacific Ocean, hidden inside a deep underwater trench. Mina flew out to meet it. As they approached, sonar picked up the Shape-A. Massive figure curled like a sea creature. This ship was different, sleeker, designed for stealth. Its name was Whisper. As Amina swam close, the ship opened slowly. Light poured out, the voice was soft. Stealth vessel Whisper, activated. Welcome, Commander. Now Earth had 3 Leviathans, but the alien fleet was close in space. The 30 Valthakar warships appeared just beyond. Earth's moon. The Overlord sent one final message. You had your warning. Now we erase you. Earth's skies filled with falling stars missiles, plasma bolts, kinetic weapons. The first real invasion had begun, but this time, Earth was not alone. Judgment, Vigilant, and Whisper launched together. They didn't just fly. They moved like living creatures, cutting through space faster than anything built by humans. They formed a triangle in orbit, each guarding a section of Earth. As the alien weapons approached, Whisper vanished, completely cloaked. The enemy missiles struck, but nothing hit, because Whisper had used its stealth field to divert the attacks. Then Vigilant fired back wide-range EMP bursts that disabled 6 ships instantly. Judgment finished them with a single beam, slicing through the center like butter in less than 2 minutes. Earth's Leviathans had destroyed half the enemy fleet. The Valthakar screamed in panic, but something else happened next. All across the Earth, more ships began to wake without Amina's help. People in villages, deserts, islands people, with strange dreams felt pulled toward hidden places. They were being called. Some had DNA linked to the old commanders. Some were descendants of those long forgotten. All were chosen. The Leviathans were returning, and the galaxy was watching. Snow fell softly across the mountains of South America. Deep beneath the surface, in a rocky cavern no human had entered for thousands of years, something ancient was waking. The walls were marked with strange symbols glowing now, pulsing softly, as if breathing. In the center of the cave, hidden under layers of rock and ice, a ship waited. It had waited for almost 50,000 years, but now it was listening. Outside the mountain, a helicopter landed roughly. Mina Shah stepped out with a small team of soldiers and scientists. The cold wind hit her face, but she didn't care. The scanner on her wrist was glowing. Strong Leviathan energy was coming from beneath their feet. They had followed a signal, a new one different from the other ships. This one had activated. On its own? How deep? Amina asked. One of the scientists looked at her nervously. Maybe 300 meters? It's buried inside solid granite. We'll need hours to drill, no, Amina said. We don't have hours. She placed her hand on the icy rock, her palm device. M-E. Suddenly, a thin beam of light shot out from the scanner and touched the mountain wall. Symbols appeared on the stone. The mountain groaned. Then, like a door sliding open, a passage revealed itself. No drilling, no explosion, just acceptance. The team stepped inside slowly. They walked down a long corridor filled with glowing lines. Everything felt alive, watching. Finally, they reached a chamber with a giant machine sitting in the middle. It was different from Judgment, Vigilant, or Whisper. This ship was bulkier, stronger. A voice echoed around them, deep, calm, powerful. Vessel. Titan... active. Awaiting command. Amina's eyes widened. It spoke before I touched it, the ship replied. Primary command code found in surrounding DNA. Welcome, offspring of the builders. Everyone froze. What did it call us? Whispered one soldier. The builders. Amina said softly. That's what we were, before history forgot. Back in space, the battle with the Valthakar's second wave continued. Judgment. Vigilant and Whisper moved like ghosts across the stars, tearing enemy ships apart with perfect coordination. They didn't use brute force, they used strategy, old human tactics encoded in their systems. Thousands of years ago, the aliens couldn't keep up, but reinforcements were coming. The Valthakar had called in their allies. The Skarn, the Urati, the Cold Suns, all feared the return of Earth. All had agreed long ago that if the Leviathans ever woke, they would destroy Earth completely. Earth's window was closing. In the South American mountain, Titan slowly rose from its cradle of stone. It hovered for a moment and launched into the sky like a rocket. Amina's team watched in awe. That's 4 ships now, she whispered. But we need all 8. She opened her map. 2 more locations had lit up, one in the African Great Rift Valley, another under the frozen wastes of Siberia. Both were pulsing with Leviathan signals. But something else was happening too. Across the globe, normal people began having strange dreams. Dreams of stars, war, ships, and ancient voices. Many of them didn't know why, but they felt pulled toward strange places in Japan. A teenager ran into a forest and found an old stone gate buried in the ground. In Egypt, a woman found a strange symbol under her family's home. In Canada, a farmer's son dug up a strange orb in a field. It began to speak his name. The Leviathans were calling their pilots. They were choosing Amina, stood inside a small lab, looking at DNA sequences. She noticed something strange. All the chosen people had the same rare gene, forgotten code, almost extinct, hidden deep inside the human genome. The code of the original builders. The old humans, the ones who built the Leviathans, were not all descended from them, Amina realized. Only a few. The ones chosen by the ships. Meanwhile, in orbit, Titan arrived. Its arrival changed everything, unlike the others. Titan had a gravitational weapon one that could pull enemy ships together and crush them into each other. It used one blast. 5 Valthakar ships collided and exploded. The rest turned to flee, but they didn't escape. Earth had turned the tide again, yet even in victory, something felt wrong. Back on the Valthakar capital, leaders met in silence. Fear hung in the air. They now control for Leviathans. One said, and more are waking. We waited too long, another whispered. We should have destroyed Earth before it remembered. But then, a voice interrupted the meeting. It came from an ancient machine at the edge of their war room. A machine so old it was almost forgotten. The screen glowed. A message appeared. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 imminent. The builders return. Prepare yourselves. The room fell into panic. That wasn't Earth, someone gasped. That was from the old war, the Overlord growled. They are not just waking weapons. They are waking memories. He turned to his advisors. We must begin the Black Protocol. Everyone froze. The Black Protocol was not just about war. It was about destruction, erasing entire star systems. To hide the truth, to make sure no one remembered what humanity was. Back on Earth, Amina received a strange message from Judgment. Memory core unlocked. Would you like to review? She nodded. A beam of light formed a 3D image around her. A memory projection. She saw cities floating in space. Human fleets spanning entire galaxies. Peaceful worlds protected by massive ships. But then, shadow. A dark force rising from the center of the galaxy. Something monstrous. Not alien. Machine? Something worse. And she heard one sentence repeated again and again. We buried the Leviathans, not to hide from the galaxy, but to protect it. The vision ended. Amina sat in silence. It wasn't about war. It was about something else. The ships were more than weapons. They were warnings, last lines of defense against something bigger than the Volthakar, bigger than the known galaxy. She called the world leaders. We need to stop thinking small. She said, this isn't just an alien war. It's history coming back, and we don't know the whole truth yet. One general asked, what are you saying? I think. We weren't the only ones who were buried, Amina said. There. Maybe others' older enemies, waiting to wake too. Earth wasn't just a battleground anymore. It was the center of something ancient. The third Leviathan ship. Whisper sent a new signal. Unknown energy source detected. Outer system. Not Volthakar. Older, much older. Amina looked at the data. Whatever was out there, it wasn't coming. It was already here, and it had been waiting for Earth to remember. The sky above Earth was no longer safe. A massive alien fleet moved into position, just beyond the moon. It wasn't just Volthakar ships this time. It was a full coalition Skarn, dreadnoughts, Roddy needle cruisers, Cold Sun's energy. Hives. Ships of every size, shape, and design. Thousands of them. They had only one target, Earth, inside the alien command ship. Supreme Overlord Qatar watched the hologram. It showed Earth spinning calmly, unaware of what was about to come. His face was hard, his voice sharp. We attack in 6 hours. No signals, no warnings. Earth dies today. Back on Earth, Amina Shah stood inside the Leviathan hangar. 4 warships now floated above the planet Judgment. Vigilant, Whisper, and Titan. Each was awake. Each ready. But they were not enough. She had read the ancient warnings inside Judgment's memory core. This war wasn't just about survival, it was about remembering. Earth was not a beginner. Earth was a returning giant, but even giants could be crushed by numbers. Any news from the Greenland site? She asked. A soldier answered, excavation complete. A 5th Leviathan is waking. We think it's airborne class fast, light, and built for interception. Its name is Falcon. Amina nodded. That was good. Not enough. She looked at her map. One more ship had sent a signal deep under the frozen tundra of Siberia. It's the 6th Leviathan. She turned to her assistant. Send the team. We need them. All now. Meanwhile, something strange happened across the world. People with the hidden gene began reporting visions, not dreams memories. Real, clear, painful memories of battles they had never fought, commands they had never given, planets they had never visited. It was as if the ships were waking something inside them too. One man in Kenya dropped to his knees and cried, I remember flying through the rings of a black hole. A child in Iceland whispered, I watched our old empire burn. The Leviathans were not just war machines. They were connected to their pilots mind to mind, memory to memory. A network of forgotten knowledge was rebuilding itself inside human minds. Amina felt it too. At night, she dreamed of star maps and hidden weapons. She began to remember codes, tactics, old languages, not as guesses. She wasn't learning. She was remembering above Earth, the alien fleet began final formation. Massive weapons aimed at the planet. They weren't just planning to conquer, they were going to erase. Inside the UN war room, chaos grew. We have to evacuate. 8. Can't evacuate billions. Maybe we should offer them, Amina? She walked into the room, calm and firm. Surrender won't save you. They don't want peace. They want silence. We want Earth to vanish. One general stood up. And what do you suggest? Amina took a breath. Let the Leviathans fight. But there are only 5. The man snapped. She looked him in the eye. Then 5 will have to be enough. For now. On the far side of the planet, Falcon rose from the ice. It was fast, blindingly fast. Its sleek form cut through the atmosphere like lightning. It joined the others in orbit. 5 ships. Against thousands, the battle began. Without warning, the alien coalition opened fire. Beams of red and purple energy rained toward Earth. Planetary shields activated, satellites exploded, cities braced for impact. But before the blasts could land, Whisper vanished into stealth mode and redirected the energy with a mirror field. Titan used its gravity cannon to pull 2 enemy ships into each other. Judgment cut across the center, tearing through 15 ships in seconds. Falcon zipped between cruisers, delivering targeted blows to weak spots faster than the eye could. Follow, and Vigilant did what it was built for: defense. It extended a shield over parts of Earth's orbit, protecting the command centers and launch facilities. It was not a fight. It was a performance. The Leviathans danced through war, but even they were not invincible. There were just 2. Many enemies, a massive Skarn superweep uncharged. A dark red beam shot from its core, hitting Falcon mid-flight. The ship spun out, trailing smoke and fire. Amina gasped. Falcon, respond. The ship did not answer. Back on Earth, the 6th Leviathan, codenamed Stormbreaker, finished activation. It was different, heavier, with wings like blades and an armored hull that shimmered in the light. Its chosen pilot was a young engineer named Noor Hassan. She had never flown anything before, but when she stepped inside Stormbreaker, the ship recognized her instantly. Pilot confirmed. Warrior class activated. Welcome, Noor. Without training, without hesitation, she launched toward space. Something guided her hands. The ship was in her mind. Above Earth, Falcon was about to crash. Just before impact, Stormbreaker arrived, slamming into the enemy cruiser that had fired. Both ships exploded. Stormbreaker survived. Noor screamed, eyes wide but not in fear. Enraged, and the Leviathan responded. It changed shape mid-flight. Blade wings turned into energy cannons. The ship twisted in impossible angles, dodging incoming fire and returning it with double strength. Earth's defenders pushed back, but the alien fleet still had the numbers. A second wave of ships emerged, bigger, darker, older. Not from the coalition, no one recognized them. Even the alien commanders looked confused. On the Valthakar bridge, the sensors blinked. Unknown ships entering system. What, more humans? No. These are not human. Mysterious ships moved. Through the battlefield without speaking. No communication. No signals. Just movement. Then they opened fire on both sides, Earth ships and alien coalition. Vessels were hit alike. Amina's voice came through every channel. Everyone stop. Who are they? But there was no answer. Judgment scanned one of the unknown ships and then spoke. Warning. Origin. Pre-Leviathan. Time frame. Before the builders. Classification. Ancient enemy. Directive. Eliminate on sight. Amina's blood ran cold. These aren't aliens. They're the ones we hid the Leviathans from. The real enemy had arrived. Ships. Built from black crystal and living bone. Weapons that bent gravity and pierced shields like paper. No voices. No messages. Only death. The Leviathans began to fall back. For the first time, even Judgment seemed afraid. On Earth, panic spread again. The unknown fleet was unlike anything they had seen. Cities prepared for evacuation. Amina turned to her command team. Contact. All sleeper pilots, wake every ship. Now. All across Earth, the final 3 Leviathans began to stir, buried under the ocean. hidden in the Himalayas, locked inside a volcano, ancient machines trembled as their pilots were chosen. Amina looked to the stars and whispered, "We need you now. All of you." The Earth was caught between two fires. Above the planet, the skies were filled with war. On one side, the alien coalition, Volthakar, Skarn, Urati burning with fear of humanity's return. On the other, a new threat. Silent ships. Made of bone and crystal, no names, no signals. The real enemy, the ones buried in memory. The reason the Leviathans were created in the first place, and Earth was at the center of it all. Amina, Asha, stood in a command center buried deep beneath Greenland. Her face was pale, her heart pounded. For days, she had feared a war with the galaxy. But this was worse, much worse. "They're not just here to destroy us," she said. "They're here to finish something they started a long time ago." She stared at the live feed. The 6th Leviathan. Stormbreaker flew alongside Judgment, Vigilant, Whisper, and Titan in orbit. And they were losing. The new enemy's weapons didn't follow normal laws. They bent space, they melted armor. Even the mighty Leviathans couldn't fully block their attacks. One by one, alien coalition ships were falling too. Volthakar cruisers exploded, Skarn dreadnoughts tore in half. The enemy didn't care who they fought, only that everything died. "This is what the old humans were trying to stop," Amina whispered. At the same time, the last 3 Leviathans stirred. The 7th ship, Warden, awoke deep beneath the Indian Ocean, covered in thick coral and stone. It burst from the sea like a rising god. The 8th Echo broke free from a frozen cave in the Himalayas. It was unlike the others, thin, sharp, with long antennae that shimmered in the air. And the 9th wasn't on Earth, hidden inside Earth's moon behind a false rock shell. A black ship opened its eyes. Older, larger, silent. Its name was Never. Spoken in full. Only one word echoed from it. Origin. All Leviathans were now awake. Amina felt it deep inside her chest. A connection, a pulse. All ships now linked. To her and to each other, she stepped into Judgment's control core. The walls lit up with star maps, battle logs, and one central message. Phase 2 unlocked. She stood silently as holograms formed around her old commanders, dressed in armor from a forgotten time. They spoke in simple words, not ancient language. "You must remember why we buried the ships." Amina nodded slowly. "Because of them," she said, pointing to the alien bone ships. "No," the figures replied. "We buried them because we tried to destroy them once and failed." Silence. "They do not conquer," one commander continued. "They infect. They break the rules of matter, of thought, of time. Even we at our strongest could only delay them," another added, "so we erased ourselves, hid the Leviathans. Hid Earth, made the galaxy forget us, hoping they would forget too. But now they remember," Amina said. "Yes," the voices replied. "And now, so must you." She was flooded with memories, not her own. The final war of the First Empire. Humanity's last stand on a dying world. 8 Leviathans firing into a black hole. The collapse of whole galaxies just to seal the enemy away. And a message passed down in code, "We will return when the stars burn wrong." They were burning wrong now. Amina took a deep breath and opened the Leviathan.com-net across Earth. The 9 ships hovered glowing, armed, ready. Their chosen pilots, all new to this war, stood inside them. Some were teenagers, some were elders. All of them had been called. "This is Amina Shah," she said into the system. "Earth is not fighting to win. We're fighting to stop the end. All of us. Together." Origin, the Moon Leviathan, responded first. Primary authority detected. Engaging total defense mode. One by one, the ships lit up. Judgment beam cannons primed. Titan. Gravity core spinning. Whisper stealth system synced. Stormbreaker. Blade wings deployed. Falcon. Speed enhanced. Shield dome extended. To go. Signal interference, field active. Warden, oceanic countermeasure ready. Origin, Starfire protocol online. Earth's real fleet had arrived, in orbit. The alien coalition paused. They had just realized. The humans weren't done waking up. They were only beginning. The bone ships didn't stop. They charged. Origin was the first to strike. A pulse of white energy ripped space open, bending light. Itself. 3 enemy ships, vanished, no explosion, just silence. Warden rose from the ocean and fired a sonic wave. It cracked the hulls of 2 bone cruisers. Echo launched signal interference. Beams scrambling the alien ship's ability to coordinate. Falcon and Stormbreaker danced through the chaos, picking off attackers one by one, in judgment now fully unlocked. Released its main cannon. A single beam cut across space, slicing 7 enemy ships in half. Not with fire, but with precision. Still, the enemy kept coming. More bone ships appeared. From portals, from shadow, from nowhere. They were endless until something changed. Deep inside Origin, system unlocked. A portal opened. Amina gasped. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory transfer system. Knowledge. Shipbuilding. Shields. Energy control. Dimensional travel? Earth wasn't just being defended. It was being re-armed. The Leviathans weren't the final weapons. They were the teachers. Phase 2 wasn't war. It was awakening. Amen. Sent a signal to all nations. The Leviathans can't fight this war alone, but they can help us evolve, build new ships, train new minds, learn from the old world. Humanity was always meant to rise again. Across the globe, construction sites were activated, blueprints from Origin were shared, factories retooled. Scientists received downloads they didn't understand but felt right in days. Earth would begin building its first new Leviathan-class vessels. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, humanity wasn't reacting, it was rising. For the first time in 50,000 years, Earth was awake. 9 Leviathan warships hovered like ancient gods above the blue planet. Beneath them, humans all across the world were no longer just survivors. They were builders again, in secret factories. Under mountains and oceans, construction had begun. Using the ancient blueprints shared by Origin, Earth's greatest minds now worked day and night. New ships, new weapons, new hope. But time was running out. Above the planet, the unknown enemy, the ones made of bone, shadow, and silence kept coming. They didn't speak. They didn't stop. They didn't die easily. The alien coalition Volthakar Skarnyarati had suffered terrible losses. Hundreds of their ships were gone. Thousands of soldiers dead. Their commanders no longer saw. Earth is weak. Now they saw Earth as cursed. Inside the Volthakar command ship, Supreme Overlord Qatar stood in silence. The floor around him was littered with broken weapons and shattered displays. "We were fools," his advisor whispered. "We thought the humans were children, but they were sleeping titans." Qatar said nothing. He turned toward the screen toward Earth. His eyes burned with fear and hate. "They brought the Ancient Ones back into the galaxy," he said. "This is their fault, and they must be punished." But his own soldiers no longer believed in victory. They wanted peace, even surrender. Far below, in Earth's orbit, Judgment glided beside Origin. Amina Shah stood inside the control core of Origin. Its walls pulsed softly. She was no longer just a scientist. The ship had changed her, upgraded her mind, expanded her memory. She could feel the energy of the Leviathans like a heartbeat in her head. She turned to the floating console. "Send." "The signal," she said. A single message was broadcast across the galaxy. Every empire, every station, every listening post. The message was simple. "Earth has returned. We offer peace, but we will not kneel. The Leviathans are online. The builders are awake. And this time, we remember everything." The galaxy trembled. On distant worlds, ancient races, who once feared the First Empire, now whispered one word again: humans. But the shadow ships, the real threat, didn't care. They weren't alive in the normal way. They didn't listen. They didn't respond, Judgment reported. confirmed. Bone fleet originates from a dead star system, source energy unknown. Ships appear to consume matter, life, and memory. They do not conquer, they erase. Amina stared. At the data, these ships, they're not an army. They're a virus, she understood now. The Leviathans had not been built to fight empires. They were not about power. They were about containment. The ancient humans had created them to seal away the Bone Fleet, and now that seal had cracked. Meanwhile, across Earth, strange things began to happen. People with the ancient gene, the descendants of the builders, started remembering more. Not just dreams, but clear visions. A boy in Nigeria remembered how to fly a ship he had never seen. A woman in Mexico built a gravity engine using only stone and copper wire. A blind man in Vietnam began drawing star maps on his walls, maps no one else had ever seen. Humanity wasn't evolving. It was Rebu. The Leviathans had unlocked something. Inside their creator's old code, buried in the human mind. But it wasn't just humans who noticed. Back on the Valthakar homeworld, a secret meeting took place. The Skarn sent envoys. The Urati arrived in cloaked ships. Even the insect-like Yulteri, who hadn't spoken to other species in 1,000 years, joined the call. They all had one fear, the Bone Fleet, and now only Earth could stop them. But would Earth help? Amina sat with Earth's leaders. Some wanted to strike the alien coalition while they were weak. Others wanted to stay out of galactic politics. But Amina knew better. This isn't about war, she said. It's about survival. The Bone Fleet is coming for all of us. They don't care about borders. They don't care about species. They only care that we exist. She looked each leader in the eye. We'd either fight this together, or we all disappear. Reluctantly, Earth agreed. A second message was sent. Earth calls for a grand alliance. All species welcome. Join us at Sol. Bring what you can. The war to end erasure has begun. And slowly, the galaxy responded. Broken Valthakar ships limped toward Earth. Skarn engineers offered blueprints. Urati cloaked cruisers landed in peace. Even rogues from a lost star system offered code updates. In orbit, a massive space dock was built, controlled by the Leviathans, operated by humans, aliens, and machines. A true alliance. But then, something changed. Echo, the signal ship, picked up a dark transmission. Not words, not language, just pattern. It was a countdown. And it had already started. In 72 hours, something big would arrive at the edge of the solar system. A ship. Or maybe a command center. Mina didn't know, but Origin did. Confirmed. Rival, the core, the heart of the Bone Fleet. Amina stood on the Leviathan bridge, fists clenched. This is it, she said. This is what we were built. 4. Across Earth, final construction sped up. New defense satellites. Prototype ships. Energy weapons based on ancient blueprints. People no longer panicked. They prepared. They remembered what it meant to be human, to be the builders. When all others ran, and in 3 days, they would face the end. 3 days, that's all the time Earth had left. In 72 hours, the core of the Bone Fleet, the source of the ancient enemy, would arrive in the solar system. Not a single ship. It's not even a fleet. Something worse. Amina Shah stood inside Origin, the oldest of the Leviathans. She stared at the countdown projected on the ship's interface. Red numbers ticked downward, unblinking, final, inevitable. Core entity estimated size, planetary class, defense shields, unknown, weapon systems, undefined. Estimated destruction, radius, entire system. No one spoke when the data was shared with Earth's leaders. There was nothing to say. If they failed, Earth and everything in it would be gone. But for once, humanity wasn't alone. The Grand Alliance had formed. Valthakar battleships hovered alongside Earth's new prototype cruisers. Skarn energy barges powered the orbital defense grid. Urati's signal interceptors pulsed around the moon, scanning for cloaked enemies. Even the rogue AI Next 12 created a field of nanobots. that repaired damage instantly during battle, and leading them all were the 9 Leviathans and ancient warships, now fully awakened, flying like titans in Earth's orbit. Humanity was not running it, was standing, and it was ready. Inside Judgment, Amina met with the other Leviathan pilots. Some had been soldiers. Others had been scientists, engineers, farmers, or even teenagers. The ships had chosen them based on ancient DNA memories locked inside. Blood. Each pilot had changed. The Leviathans didn't just share weapons, they shared knowledge. Pilot Nur Hassan of Stormbreaker could now see into gravity waves. Commander Lee Ren of Falcon could predict ship movement seconds before it happened. Engineer Tomas Velko of Titan could speak directly to the ship's internal AI without words. They were no longer just humans. They were becoming something more. Something old, something forgotten. Aina looked at each of them. "We were never meant to be warriors," she said. "But the galaxy forgot what we once were." The Leviathans didn't choose perfect soldiers. They chose those willing to remember and fight. They nodded. She continued, "The core is coming. This is the last line." On the final day, something strange happened. Every Leviathan went silent. No lights. No motion. No voice. Then, in perfect sync, they projected a memory into space, a glowing image that appeared above Earth's atmosphere. All ships could see it. All people. Even alien allies watched in silence. It showed the final battle of the First Empire. Thousands of years ago, humanity had faced the Bone Fleet once before. Entire planets had burned. Solar systems had fallen. Then came the last stand. The Leviathans had led the charge, not to win but to delay, to trap the core behind folded space. Prison made of collapsed stars and dying time. But even that hadn't been enough to destroy it. So humanity buried everything. Their ships, their knowledge, their identity, and now it was happening again. But this time, they wouldn't run. This time, they would finish it. The countdown reached 0, and then it arrived. Not through space, but through space. A hole opened beyond. Pluto. A wound in the stars. From that wound came the core. At first, it looked like a black moon covered in bone and metal surrounded by orbiting shards. But as it came closer, it changed shape, pulsed, shifted. Clefted, it was aware. It was aware. Origin translated the first pulse. You escaped. Now you return. You remember. You must forget. The core didn't speak in words. Spoken commands. Reality itself bent around its presence. Ships began to fail. Skarn barges lost gravity. Valthakar drives overheated. Roddy mines built on song. And sound fell into confusion. Even Whisper's stealth failed. The core was more than technology. It was ancient memory, twisted into weapon form, and it had come to erase everything. But Earth was ready. Amina activated the Leviathan network. A pulse of golden light connected the 9 ships. For the first time, they didn't just fight beside each other. They fought as one. Their weapons synced. Shields overlapped. Movement became a dance of unity. Judgment led the charge, firing a beam that bent toward the core's weak point. Falcon moved at light speed, striking from every angle. Titan locked the core's left side with gravity fields. Echo interfered, with its signal pulses slowing its commands. Stormbreaker and Warden defended the rear, cutting down drone waves. Whisper vanished, then reappeared inside the core's outer armor, detonating sabotage bombs. Vigilant cast a shield over the entire human and alien fleet. In Origin, the heart opened a portal directly into the core structure. Amina gasped. Inside the core, she saw memories, old humans, the original builders, caught, trapped, not dead, but frozen in time. Memory prisons, thoughts looping. Forever, that's what the core did. It didn't just kill life, stole it, stole identity, swallowed civilization. She turned to the others. We're not just stopping a machine, we're freeing our past. Leviathans went deeper. They entered. The core itself. Space twisted. Time slowed. Their hulls cracked. Shields flickered. Inside, there were no weapons. No enemies. Only mirrors. Each pilot saw a version of themselves, failing, breaking, losing. But they pushed forward. The Leviathans activated their final protocol. Unity strike. 9 cores aligned. 9 beams charged. At the center of the core, the memory prison cracked. The builders screamed, then were freed. Energy exploded outward, and the core screamed, not with sound, with silence. A silence that echoed through every ship, every mind, every world. Then, it was over. The core fractured, folded, collapsed, and vanished into light. The bone. Fleet stopped moving. Then it too collapsed. One by one, ships breaking apart like ash. The galaxy watched in silence, and then cheered. Earth had won, but not with hate, with memory, with unity, with truth. The war was over, but something had begun. The war was over. The core enemy of thought, memory, and life was gone, destroyed by the last hope of an ancient race. Earth, the bone fleet, had turned to dust. Silence replaced terror. Stars that had long hidden in fear now shone freely again, but peace brought new questions. Earth had returned. The Leviathans were awake. The builders were remembered. Now, the galaxy waited. Would humanity rise as conquerors, or as something else? The 9 Leviathan warships floated quietly, like sleeping giants. Around them, the largest fleet ever assembled now, stood still alien cruisers, AI-controlled repair ships, Skarn barges, Roddy lightcraft, and Earth's first modern-built straps. At the center of it all stood Judgment, with Amina Shah inside. Her face was tired, eyes heavy, but calm. She looked at the glowing data floating in front of her. It wasn't just battle reports. It was history poured back into human hands after 50,000 years. Origin spoke gently in her mind. The core is destroyed. The seal has held. The builders have succeeded. Amina looked out the window. She whispered. Then, why don't I feel like it's over? Behind her, Leviathan pilots gathered for one final meeting. They had all changed, not just as warriors, but as people. They had touched something ancient, felt the weight of what came before, and they all felt the same thing now. This wasn't an ending, it was a new beginning. On Earth, cities celebrated. Across the world, humans cheered, cried, and danced. Streets were filled with flags old and new. The Skarn and Valthakar ships landed gently in deserts and fields, greeted not by guns, but by open hands. The message was spreading. Humanity had returned, but not for revenge. For restoration, world leaders met in Geneva under a new banner, the Unity Accord. Earth offered peace, technology, shared defense to any species willing to join a common future. Hundreds of planets responded, even former enemies. The Valthakar High Council broadcast a formal apology. The Skarn sent a living statue as a gift to Earth's children. The Urati rewrote their star maps with Earth at the center, not as rulers, but as guardians. Amina was invited to speak. Her voice echoed across the galaxy. We were buried because we tried to stop a darkness, greater than any one species could face alone. We return not to rule, but to remember. If we rise again, let it be as protectors, not conquerors. We offer the Leviathans not as weapons, but as shields for all who stand together. Billions heard her words and believed them, but not all. Far beyond the galactic rim, in silent sectors untouched by light, ancient forces stirred. Not bone, not flesh. Something else, something that had once whispered to the core, and was now watching Earth with interest. Inside Origin, a final message unlocked, one that had never been shown, not even to the First Empire. Amina stood alone as the Leviathan, played the message. A man appeared in the projection, dressed in armor from the past, his face scarred, his voice calm. "If you're hearing this, then the core is gone. But not all threats come from bone and shadow. Some come from within. The next enemy will wear your own face." Amina stared at the image. It was her face. Not exactly, but close. A memory. A bloodline. A genetic echo. The builders had left behind more than ships. They had left warnings of power, temptation, of control. Origin pulsed quietly. "Would you like to activate the builder protocol?" Amina paused. The builder protocol was full restoration, reactivating old human empires, launching planetary defense rings, giving Earth full control of Leviathan. Command over all star systems. Power. Complete, she stood at the edge of history. But then she heard another voice, Noor Hassan, pilot of Stormbreaker. Behind her, "You don't have to lead alone," Noor said softly. "Let Earth choose, not the old empire, the new one." Amina looked out at the stars, so many lights, so many lives. She smiled and spoke one simple word: no. She turned off the builder protocol. Instead, she activated something else. Leviathans, unlock knowledge, share freely, all species. Allies. Together. Origin blinked. Confirmed. Protocol changed. The future is shared. Months passed. Earth became the center of a new network. Not an empire, but a council. The Unity fleet grew, ships of every species flying together, trained by Leviathans, defended by memory, led by peace. New Leviathans were designed not for war, but for exploration, science, and healing. The galaxy had changed, because humanity remembered. 1 year later, Amina stood in the garden of Earth's new orbital city, watching ships launch into deep space. She wore no uniform, no crown, just a coat, and a quiet smile. No, rejoined her. "Do you ever wonder," Noor asked, "what comes next?" Amina looked at the stars and whispered, "Not what comes next. Who?"